Hello again, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Michael. Behind me is Felicity. November 8033 Fox, a Cessna flight training device that I built right here at home. Welcome back to the channel. It is the 2nd of July, 2025. I do hope you are all well and safe wherever you may be around the world. I feel like it's been forever since we've been able to get together and do some general aviation flying. But this past weekend was spent at the Flight Simulation Expo in Providence, Rhode Island. It was certainly unique and different than the expo in Houston a couple years ago. I didn't make it to the Las Vegas Expo, unfortunately, but we're going to do a little bit of discussion about that. I do want to say thank you again to Duffy Fluffy for providing our new intro music to the channel, AI generated. Really has a great tone, and I do appreciate the time and effort he took to do that for the channel. So thank you again, Duffy Fluffy, and welcome in. A pleasure to see you, my friend. Okay, Flight Sim Expo 2025. I will be forthcoming and say that I did not take a whole lot of pictures when I was out on the floor. Were several other great streamers and YouTubers that went around and did tours of the expo floor. I'll be forthcoming and say that I didn't do a whole lot of that. For me, Flight Sim Expo 2025 in Providence was about not so much what's latest and greatest in the hardware scene. It was more about connecting and reconnecting with people in flight simulation and in real world flying. So, what I want to do is just kind of go over and recap my experience, my personal experience with FSExpo. Not so much to promote or talk about any vendor one over the other. That's not what I'm trying to do. There's plenty other streamers and YouTubers who have already done that, and then some of the videos I've seen, like, and I wonder how they have find the time to do this type of editing and video formatting, and it's presented in an extraordinary fashion. Something that I personally I don't have the time to take the effort to make all of these fancy graphics to try and draw people in to watch what I have to present. That's not what I'm here to do. I am here to talk to you as Michael, your general Twitch streamer and flight simulation enthusiast. So that being said, I will talk about. I'll start off this segment with our trip to Providence, Rhode Island. I made the trek via automobile. I didn't fly. We didn't we didn't fly. We drove, and Jeffrey B, twitch.tv/Jeffrey B was very cordial and nice, and opened up his home for us to stay in on Wednesday night. So we made the trip from Columbus, Ohio, over to, I would just call it Philadelphia, PA, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, for our overnight. So that was Wednesday night, and it was nice to be able to break the trip up into 2 days, because the total drive time between Central Ohio and Providence, Rhode Island, is about 11 hours. Which, to just kind of skip ahead, we did end up doing the whole thing on Monday, but it was nice to be able to break that drive up and spend it with some flight simulation friends. So that was very nice and relaxing because we didn't have to focus on making the drive all in one day. And I see that Duffy Fluffy is here in the channel. Hello, my friend. And again, thank you so much for that intro music. I really find it to be a catchy tune. So I want to thank you for that. Let's see if I can... I know I took some photos en route. I'll go ahead and let's see if I can do this here and then here. So, one of my hobbies, along with flight simulation, is archery. I'm not a hunter by any means, but target archery is one of my other hobbies. And what do would you come across about when we were making our drive, we kind of came across the holy grail of archery distributors in the United States. So this is Lancaster Archery Supply. Most of their stuff is a lot of mail order, but they do have an exquisite showroom. And we actually stopped in to Lancaster Archery. I mean, we were passing right through it on the way to Jeffrey's house. So it would have been... I would have been extremely, what's the word I'm looking for? Disappointed had I not taken the time out to stop in Lancaster Archery Supply. So this is essentially the outskirts of their building. I didn't necessarily, do much of the internal photography, but to kind of stop here and, be able to put my hands on some of the new and latest and greatest archery products was really neat. So I won't spend a whole lot of time talking about that, but it was really kind of cool to be able to be here at Lancaster Archery in person. M. Stein, hello, welcome on in. Yes, we did pass through the entire Empire State, and we'll be discussing that momentarily. So moving along, this is the bridge from... I can't really say it's a major landmark, and I'm trying to remember here. Okay, so we were already in Pennsylvania, so it's not the Ohio River Bridge. This is some other bridge that was crossing some other body of water. I don't entirely remember which one this was, but it is a suspension bridge. It would have been after Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I want to say this was going into New Jersey. I want to say this bridge here was going into New Jersey. And okay, so there's a Garden State Parkway. So so we're kind of at this point in the middle of Pennsylvania and New Jersey. So the reason why we took the Garden State Parkway, this was based on a recommendation from Jeffrey B., was to kind of keep us west of the New York City traffic area. I mean, we could have continued on, well, I want to say it was 95. We could have continued on 95 all the way through New York City and kind of came up that way. But for trafficy reasons, it was recommended that we take this Garden State Parkway north and re-pick up 95 further north. And that's what we ended up doing. So we took the Garden State Parkway all the way up through, and then we came to New York. M. Stein says, and M. Stein is a New York resident, so I'm sure he knows a lot more about this territory than I do. But with Jeffrey living in the kind of the northwest Philadelphia area and having made the trek, I took his advice and we took that Garden State Parkway. But here we are crossing into New York along the Garden State Parkway, and this is coming up on I'll say is a unique experience. Now, if you've flown with me a while and enough times, you know that we've flown up and down the Hudson, SVRA Special VFR Flight Rules area several times, and we have all of these VFR landmarks that we call out. Statue of Liberty, Intrepid, Colgate Clock, Alpine Tower, and here we have the Tappan Zee Bridge. Now, I've never actually seen this Tappan Zee Bridge in person. This was a first for me in real life. And granted, we're in a automobile, so we're driving it. We're not flying the actual SFRA, but to actually kind of see the landmark in person, and actually get a visual on this thing that I've been calling out in the simulator for so many years and so many times was really quite astounding. Now, believe me when I tell you that what I see in person and in real life, it looks nothing like how it's represented in X-Plane with Sim Heaven whatsoever. I mean, we can see that there's a bridge there, but the detail that's being shown with these columns and suspension pieces and things like that is not depicted in the simulator whatsoever. So we're continuing along. We finally make our way into Connecticut, eastern New York there. This is some sort of random stadium that I came across on I-95. I'm not sure what stadium it is. I just thought that it looked cool. I don't see things like this in my little farm town of central Ohio. So I went ahead and took a picture of it. And I imagine there's some sort of games or sports that go on there. I honestly don't know. But it was literally right there off of 95, so I took a picture of it just for my own, record keeping. Alright, here we are. I probably skipped ahead a little bit. So we get to our hotel. I didn't do a whole lot of picture taking along the way, from Connecticut to Rhode Island, mostly because traffic prevented me from doing so. It was stop and go, stop and go. But here we are. This is Thursday afternoon. After we get in, and we get in maybe 1 or 2 p.m. This is closer to 3 p.m. So this is sort of the behind-the-scenes setup of the Virtual USA Flying Club booth. That is the Flying Club founder, Mike Sinante, and that is the banner that I had done for the Flying Club. So this is sort of just the very beginning of the setup of the Virtual USA Flying Club booth here at Providence, Rhode Island. And also the first time I met Mike Sinante as well. So it's really kind of neat to, meet the gentleman that started the founding club and who I've been endeavoring diligently, to come up with some events and scenery as one of the admins for the Flying Club. So that was very, 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 very neat and exciting. Let's see, what do we have next here? Okay, this is the view from our hotel room window. We're on the 8th floor of the Omni Providence. This is our window view. It's sort of a roundabout of sorts. And I will honestly say, for being on the 8th floor, I could hear everything going on down there on the ground. And I don't know if it's because it was sort of concave and things were echoing up, but I swear that it sounded like we were on the first floor with how loud things were coming through the windows and the glass. And I checked and double checked that everything was well, and I can only assume that it was cheap glass or some sort of echoing that was coming up. So we were on the 8th floor. but again, it kind of felt like we were on the ground there. Thursday, somewhere Thursday, set up photos. Being a sponsor of the expo, kind of brought me a lot of benefits and perks. One of them being, I didn't have to wait till the expo actually opened up. I was able to get access to the setup floor. And, of course, me being X-Plane, of course, that's where I'm going to go, X-Plane booth. Kind of watch them get things set up. So this is Thursday evening, as they were kind of getting things set up there at the X-Plane booth. Another view from our hotel window. This is a skywalk that connects the Omni Hotel to a shopping mall that's sort of across the road there. And we don't actually venture over there until the last day, but just the architecture I thought was pretty neat. What else do we got here? There's a Lamborghini of sorts down there parked at the roundabout, the hotel entrance there. I'm trying to keep things in order here. So let's see. This is okay. So this is Saturday's walk. So Friday was also the Flight Sim Expo FSE Friday event. Now, I will be forthcoming and say that I did not necessarily attend the FS Friday event. And the reason being, 90% of the presentations there were going to be pertaining to and related to Microsoft Flight Simulator. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but for me, I wasn't going to sit there for 5 hours and listen to a bunch of presentations that didn't necessarily apply to me. I went the latter half of FSExpo Friday, and I went there to listen to Alex List with Fly Shirley discuss a bit about Fly Shirley and where it's going to, progressions and things like that. So we'll take a look here. So I went to sort of catch the cameo of me that he had going on, discussing about, my experience with Shirley and surprise engine failures and things like that. So, it was nice for, him to kind of, I don't know what the best word is, recognize, but yeah, that's the only reason I went to FSExpo Friday. I wanted to listen to Alex and him talk about, Fly Shirley and the upcoming improvements for Fly Shirley when it comes to X-Plane. And of course, we have Juan over here on the top right. He has sort of coded and created a bridge for Fly Shirley to work with Condor, which is a glider simulator, more or less. And then we have Frank with Virtual Aviation Aviator, who's also come up with profiles to integrate Fly Shirley with the Zebo mod and what's the other one? No, the Zebo mod and what am I looking for here now? It's Zebo and gosh, what's that other? I don't fly airliners. Um, okay, Zebo mod and the Tolus A321. Um, so he's created profiles for those two aircraft, and then I've created profiles for the Cessna 172 Foxtrot Golf and Hotel. But it was still nice to sort of have that sort of cameo recognition with Flight Shirley on FSExpo Friday. X-Plane and Austin Meyer did a great presentation, and then of course Don Wade from Patriot Aircraft Parallel 42 did a great presentation, and all of that is available on YouTube. I didn't record any of that on my phone, but that stuff is available on YouTube. Let's see here. So we're FS Expo Friday. I want to go back here to my ForeFlight and okay. So we did the FS Expo Friday thing. This is sort of some pictures that I took while we were waiting for Fly Shirley. This is Winwig. Doing no, not Winwig. This is. It's the group that took over from Honeycomb. Oh gosh, and the name eludes me right now, and I feel so sorry for that. Oh gosh, Meridian. Is it Meridian? It might be Meridian. I think that might be the name of them. But this is Nicky, and I want to say he was in Honeycomb, and then something happened with the business, and then he went back out. Meridian G. This is what happens when I don't fly airliners. Gosh, let me just. Meridian. Yeah. I'm not sure. I want to say it was Meridian. Now I've got to figure this out now because, gosh, I feel horrible. That's not what I want. They probably don't have the floor plan up anymore. Is it Meridian GBT? Okay. Alright, here it is. Meridian GMT. Okay. So that's and then they have products. Okay. Alright, so I think I've got that sort of correct. Okay. Irish Cosman, hello, yes. Thank you very much for that. Meridian GMT. Okay, yes. That's exactly what it was. So these gentlemen here are from Meridian GMT. And my understanding is that Nikki, the gentleman on the right, used to be with Honeycomb. And then something happened. I don't know all the details. I'm not even about to speculate on the details. But I believe he was with Honeycomb, and then something happened, and then he went off and started his own thing. And then that's his business partner or partner there on the left. And then here we have Mustafa coming out. Okay, he was the CEO of Honeycomb, so okay, that's what I understood. So he I guess when he was with Honeycomb, he had a business partner. Things didn't work out, and if I remember right, there was some issue with the Charlie rudder pedals that some people got, some people didn't. I don't know all the details. And I'm only kind of gathering bits and pieces, and please don't hold me to this as truth whatsoever, because I don't know everything for a fact. But here we have Mustafa on the right coming out. Meridian GMT's time has, unfortunately elotted, so they were sort of out of time. There was a lot of people think that this particular vendor was cut off, but that's not the case. Every person has their own time frame to make their presentation, and Mustafa wasn't attempting to cut them off. It's more like, okay, we have to bring this to a close if we're gonna get everybody in. And I ran into an incident with this on the X-Plane official Discord as a moderator, where someone came in and said, well, it was rude. He cut this vendor off. He was talking about stuff, and while yes, Meridian might have been cut short, they knew ahead of time that they only had so much time to make their presentation. All right, here we go. Here's Alex's list. He has no idea that I took these photos. I know he knew that I was in the audience, but this is one of the co-developers of Fly Shirley with FlyShirley.com. So he got up and he did his spiel, and that was honestly the only reason that I went to the FS Friday thing. Because I've sort of been working with Shirley since, not so much since her inception, but a couple months after she was available for X-Plane. I gave her a try, and I've been flying with Shirley ever since. But I did know that I was gonna sort of have a cameo in there. So I went in and sort of listened to what was said. Then you can see here that I made an appearance on the expo screen there, along with Juan and Virtual Aviation Aviator Frank. All great guys. So that was the whole reason I went to FSExpo Friday. A lot of the other stuff, it just, for better or for worse, it just didn't pertain to me. I'm not saying that the content wasn't worth sitting in and listening to, particularly if you fly Flight Simulator. But for me, I had the kids and the fiance with me. I much enjoyed my time spending time with them, showing them some other things. Just take that for what it is. It's the entire FSExpo Friday. That whole thing is available to watch on the Flight Sim Association YouTube channel. Everything is there. For your viewing pleasure. Friday evening after the FSExpo Friday, sort of between the reception and after the FSExpo Friday event, of course, if you know who that is Austin Meyer, the creator of X-Plane. And let me just tell you, I had no idea he was going to be that tall. I saw him, I've always kind of looked up to the guy, But I literally found myself, looking up to the guy. It was it was pretty great. And in this picture here, I'm standing probably a foot forward of him as well. I mean, he's tall. He's probably every bit of 6'4". And I'm 5'10", and I was looking up. So he did a breed of 6'4". So yeah, it was a great time. Like, that was sort of one of the highlights of my Friday. Watching Alex do his presentation, and of course, I met him earlier in the day out on the floor, but it was really kind of great to meet the Shirley team in person there. So there's one of the photos with Austin, and then someone offered to take a photo with the two of us, and you can kind of see there, and we're kind of standing side by side, but he's got every bit of 6 inches on me, and I'm wearing a fedora, so he's probably every bit of 6'4", but it was nice that he took the time and talked to everyone that wanted to, say hello. I personally wanted to thank him, for those that have ever used the X-Plane Instructor Station on the iPad. Downwind Sim, hello, welcome on in. For those that have ever used the Instructor Station on the iPad, and I'll go ahead and I'll pull that up here, and I'll show you exactly what this is gonna look like. So we'll connect to the master PC, and of course I don't know why it's doing. Yeah, so that should be sort of okay. Well, let's see. That doesn't fix it either. Well, let me see if I can sort of do this real quick. Let's see, can I transform this? Let's see if we can rotate this 90 degrees counterclockwise. Okay, there we go. So, for those who have ever used the instructor station for ForeFlight, not ForeFlight, the okay, Instructor Operating Station, abbreviated iOS, not to be confused with Apple iOS. But for those who have ever used the X-Plane iOS on the Apple iOS, one of my biggest problems with the map feature and moving your aircraft was that everything was locked at a certain altitude and a certain speed. So if I wanted to move my aircraft with the instructor station, no matter what altitude I was at, when I moved it, it would automatically move it at 10,000 feet and 200 knots. That's not practical in my 172. So I wrote Austin, and I was like, hey, have you ever considered putting in an adjustable and or save feature in the instructor operating station, to where it would be able to cater more towards, people in a Cessna or like a Piper or something that, sort of lives around. Excuse me. Excuse me again. Something that lives around 3,000 feet and maybe closer to 120 knots. And in fact, I can probably even, and of course, let's see if we can do this again here. Transform. Let's see here. So I wrote him, and I was like, I'm writing to inquire about the map on the iOS control pad for X-Plane 12. Currently, it seems to default to 200 knots and 5,000 feet for moving the aircraft. The app does not appear to save these settings. I've looked in the app preferences along with the iOS settings for the app. Are you, by chance, considering implementing a save feature or preference feature for those items so that they don't need to be adjusted every time? Several users have approached me about this, so ensured I'd ask. I hope you're enjoying your Easter. And that is true. A lot of users on Facebook and Xplane Discord have approached me about this. But he did go on and say, oh, good idea. Yeah, sure, I can do that. Give me a little time, but yeah. And then I said, thank you. Look forward to meeting you at the workshop in June. He's like, okay, done. This is now coded for version 1.03. We'll upload to Apple today. Then, of course, I went in to say thank you. But for him to sort of take that recommendation and go ahead and apply it and implement it, I thought that was great. So now I can move my aircraft using the native iPad instructor station and not have to worry about it, shooting 2,000 feet up and then moving across a map at 200 knots when I'm at 3,000 feet and cruising at 120 knots. So I can make those adjustments there in the instructor station, and it follows suit, to where the altitude and speed is. So that's really amazing that he took the time to kind of put that in. And then these are some more pictures of the Friday night expo. Saturday morning, 9:15 a.m. was a group photo with the Virtual USA Flying Club. So this is that photo there, and let's see if I can name off any of the people here. Top left is crap. Oh man. Steve Crow. The gentleman just to the right, I want to say, is Ed Glyden. And then we have Good Fixins, Brent Leonberger. I want to say that's Johnny Hayes next to him on the right. The gentleman in the blue t-shirt, I'm not too sure. The gentleman just to the right of him in the back, that is Toby Wilwayne. And then to the right of him, he's relatively new to the club. I forget his name right now. And then to the right of him is I have his book here. Where is it at? Where's his book? That is Keith Young. So Keith Young in that gray t-shirt there, next to the gentleman in the red, wrote this book called Expect Turbulence. Goes and talks about his real life experience learning to fly. I wasn't quite sure what to expect when I purchased this book from him in FSExpo 2023 in Houston, Texas. But this is a good read if you're a generation looking to pick up a generation certificate. I mean, it talks about his personal experience, but the way it is written certainly lives up to the namesake of Expected Turbulence. So that is Keith Young. I have a whole aviation library over here. Next to him, the gentleman in the red. Gosh, I feel awful that I don't know, but I don't know. And then below him is Brant Nyberg, Melvin Leroy on Twitch. Then we have Eric Lemarier, Eric Flight on Twitch. To the left of him, one of those other times when I feel bad because I don't know. Then to the left of him is Mike Sinante, with the Virtual USA Flying Club founder. And then to the left of him, this guy in this black fedora, I have no idea who he is whatsoever. I honestly have no clue who he is. I've never seen that guy before in my life. Then next to him is Jeffrey Beckers on the Jeffrey B Twitch channel, who is hosting the Virtual USA Flying Club Air Show. Downwind Sim says he's seen the guy with the hat once. Seems like trouble. Yep, it's very possible. You know, you cannot trust. You cannot trust anybody in a black fedora whatsoever. It's just, yeah, can't do it. Okay. So that is the 9:15 Virtual USA Flying Club photo. Moving along here, that's not what I wanted just yet. Where is, probably because I didn't download it. So let me just do this. We'll go here into my Discord. So 9:15. Okay, so 10 o'clock a.m. So about 45 minutes later, we have the Pilot Club group photo, which is here. And this is sort of a portrait photo, so it's not as landscape. Let's see if we can zoom in here. So on the far left, we have Katya, who is Serge's beautiful wife. And so Katya is the Pilot Club on the Pilot Club media team. And then just to the right of him, kneeling down here, is Serge. He is the founder of the Pilot Club. And then just to the right of him is Elliot Jordan. Elliot Jordan is the lead of the training department of the Pilot Club, you know, with all of the ratings available, P1. And they've recently, and I don't want to say recently because it's been at least a year, but they now offer the P2 instrument rating as well. Then to the right of him, I have, again, I have no idea who this gentleman is, but he is certainly a member of the Pilot Club. And then to the right of him is Giovanni Go, a mutual Pilot Club and Virtual USA Flying Club member. Giovanni worked with me a couple years ago actually, and gave me several mock oral exams for my private pilot certificate for the real world. He is a real world ground instructor, so he does have his ground instructor rating. I know it's very great to see Giovanni again this year at FSExpo 2025, and unfortunately I didn't get a chance to say goodbye, but I do hope he knows that it was such an honor and a blessing to see him again, and it was really, really great because I do owe him a lot, because he took so much time, uncompensated time, to work with me and drill me and get me ready for my real world um, check ride and examination. So, and that's really awesome that he was able to come back out. And to the right of him is a gentleman that I met by the name of Gary. Let's see here. That's not what I wanted. That's not the scene that I wanted here. I wanted this scene here. So to the right of him is Gary. I was able to join Gary and some of the other Pilot Club members for a Saturday night dinner at Toritomo Ramen. Very, very good place to dine. Unique ramen noodle style food. And then to the right of him is oh gosh, that is his Discord is undone, and that is, and here I am forgetting things again, and I'm gonna feel real bad now. That is James. That is James Martin. Yeah, James Martin. Out of BDL, Bravo Delta Lima. And I have to, and this is why I feel so bad his name didn't come right away, but I have to thank James again so much, because he contributed one of his Expo dinner tickets to one of my kids, so that all four of us were able to get into the Friday night Expo dinner. I ended, the limitation is generally two, but I was able to convince Evan to sell me a third, and then with James Martin offering me his additional, I was able to get all four of us, me, my fiance, and our two kids, into the Expo dinner. So that was really, really great, and I really do owe him a lot of thanks for being able to accommodate that. I'm not sure, really not sure, if that would have been possible without his support. So, that is the Friday or Saturday 10 o'clock hour. So, moving along to just right after 10, I'm going to bring back up my fourth flight here. And here I am. I had signed up for an aircraft development workshop, learning how to use PlaneMaker with Austin. Not so much because I wanted to learn how to use PlaneMaker, more so because I wanted to spend an hour and a half listening to how Austin introduced and worked with PlaneMaker. And I'll be honest, it was really great. Like I did well. Like in that hour and a half, I created my own single turbine jet. And granted, none of it was textured. There wasn't any color to it. It was just a 3D parts object that we could fly. But having had previous experience with PlaneMaker, I snapped right to it. It was, really, really easy for me to grab the concept. And each of these seminars were an hour and a half, so we had an hour and a half to develop a plane, save it, implement it into X-Plane, and to fly it. So I created my jet fuselage, and the wings, and the ailerons, and the turbine, and I placed the turbine to where it wasn't going to burn up my tail fin right out the rear. and everything was good. And I saved this thing. I went to fly it, and then I was like, well, crap. We don't have any flaps. We don't have any landing gear. Any brakes. We created the landing gear and the tires, but for some reason he had skipped over the part of, you know, wheel brakes or flaps. Like, we did the flaps in the wings section. Like we created and added those in the wings section of Plane Maker, so they were there. But for some reason, either because we were moving so quickly or time was limited, we completely skipped over the control geometry for wing flaps. Um, yeah. So once I realized that, like, why am I not slowing down here coming into landing? I'm like, well, oh crap, you know, I made these flaps, but and I told Plane Maker where the flaps were, but I didn't tell Plane Maker how many degrees or how many increments or anything like that. So I went back in to the control geometry and I gave my single engine turbine Foxtrot mini jet 40 degrees of flaps. It takes about 6 seconds to respawn from 0 to 40. Um, and I gave my left and right main gear, wheel brakes. So I resaved it and then went back into X-Plane. And then, of course, there I was flying around a flying crayon jet, but it worked. I was able to depart and fly around and land. And then the flaps were working. So it was fun. It was unique. Did I necessarily learn anything about Plane Maker in that crash course? No, I really didn't. I already knew how to shape the bodies and I already knew a lot of the control geometry and configuration and how to make adjustments and things like that. Weight and balance and fuel tank and quantity and capacity and burn. So, but it was fun to listen to Austin go over it. It was more fun to listen to Austin discover bugs or make corrections he wanted to in this Plane Maker. Um, Listening to him kind of take notes as to what he wanted to change in Plane Maker, that to me was great. Because I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. I think I think that should happen. So that in and of itself was probably one of my most favorite parts of that seminar. Um, and then okay, here he is again, and then we're just kind of going over some Plane Makers type stuff. So I did learn how to kind of build something from scratch. Um, it was a single engine turbine jet that I built. Um, about 1,600 pounds empty. So it was very light. It was very fast. It was very sporty. I did loop-de-loops and I did barrel rolls and this thing just kept on going and going and going. But it was rudimentary in design. Like, I didn't define fuel burn. I didn't define, much in the way of, V numbers. I had to put some V numbers in there just to get it to save properly, but they weren't necessarily accurate based on the type of aircraft that it was. But Downwind Sim, Plane Maker seems like a thrown together program from days, and yeah, absolutely, it definitely needs some revamping for sure. Like I think, and I've been dabbling in the X-Plane. And while I haven't been streaming, I've been dabbling in X-Plane since version 9. And I'll be honest, the interface of Plane Maker between version 9 and version 12 really hasn't changed a whole lot. There's been some changes, but it hasn't changed a whole lot, if that makes sense. Um, but it was still fun. Some more plane makers type stuff here. And then, okay, there's the photo. This is sort of a interview between Ben and Austin, talking about some upcoming things with X-Plane. Unfortunately, I didn't record much of it. Someone else was already recording it, so I know it's going to be available online. I wasn't going to do a whole lot of recording of that. The audio wasn't great anyway. But this is... And of course, there's my kid there. This was caught on the FS Elite introductory. I had no idea that we were on camera, but of course, there's my son there dancing the jig for the cameraman because he seen him, and I didn't because I was busy talking to Thompson with the X-Plane there. So that was kind of interesting that that was caught. Of course, I didn't see it whatsoever. Nope, But my son was all about it. Okay, here I am, sitting inside the Super Patriot from Patriot Aircraft. This is by far one of the most memorable experiences that I can take away. Because here is Don Wade, the owner of Patriot Aircraft. Now, I never met Don Wade up until today, but if there's one thing that connected him and I together, it is Arkansas. For those of you that don't know, Arkansas is a challenge course that went on at Bird's Adventure Center from 2021 up until 2023. So it ran for 3 years. It sort of developed during COVID. But I worked with Arkansas to develop the challenge course and scenery and bring it to X-Plane 12. And I do have to thank Don Winston, who happens to be here in the chat, for coming up with the 25-foot pylon objects that I was able to use in the course to make it even more accurate. But being able to sit and talk with the owner of Patriot Aircraft about Arkansas and, being able to... and more so the fact that, the Super Patriot had been there and flown the course, that was great. That was one of my most memorable experience of the weekend, was to be like, it's sort of like things coming to fruition in a sort of sense. I've never been to Birds. I feel like I know it, because I spent so much time researching it and talking to the Arkansas crew, looking at pictures and images and satellite data and all of this stuff to bring it to X-Plane, which is available for download on xplane.org. Just search for, Arkansas X-Plane or, Arkansas whatever, and it'll come up there on Google. But to actually be in one of the aircraft that's flown the courses, it was a very unique feeling. And this aircraft, the Super Patriot, it commands an entirely different level of respect than your general, rental 172. It commands a presence like you would not believe. So yeah, that was one of my most memorable and rewarding experiences of Flight Sim Expo. So yeah, there I am with Don Wade from Patriot Aircraft. Okay, we don't need a video. Okay, so that's a video. I'm not sure. Let's see. This video is playing on an external display. Oh, that's playing right there. So here's my boy. He is trying out the Aliyah VTOL 250 from Beta Technologies. He is there in virtual reality, and this is a partial motion sim. from Fly Shirley and Beta Technologies, and he really enjoyed himself. And of course, Shirley, our AI co-pilot, is teaching him how to fly this thing. Like, I'm not giving him any sort of input. Shirley is teaching him how to fly the Alia 250 straight from AI and virtual reality. So we have controls on the left and on the right. Well, the right stick, that's sort of the up and down. That's your hovering. That's your up and down. And then there's a thumb wheel on the right stick. That's your propulsion motor forward and backward. And then your left is, of course, your yaw left and right. But he really had a good time. And I have to thank Alex List for taking the time to let him try this out, get him set up, let Shirley coach him through it. So yeah, it was really really great, and I myself even gave it a shot. And virtual reality for me is something completely different and unique. Um, I'll be upfront and say it was initially difficult because the glasses I wear, they are transition bifocals, so they have a long range and they transition down to a short range. And when I was putting these VR headsets on, it's kind of like I'm looking up, but I'm looking up so I can get a kind of a clearer picture. And I'm looking down. When I look down to recenter my view, then things kind of get blurry. So I've learned that if I'm gonna dabble with VR, I would need to get some sort of reading lenses that are specifically one script, one size, or some sort of lens inserts for these VR headsets that are more for reading than both long and short distance. So that was my issue with VR. Did I get vertigo at all? There were some times I did. Not so much with the Fly Shirley thing, but for Flight Code X by my buddy Dan, he had a like a VR challenge course type thing. That sort of gave me vertigo because I had to look up and I had to look down to try and find myself where I was in this challenge course, and that did give me a sense of vertigo. Not because I was looking up and looking down, but more so because I was going from focus to not in focus and focus to not in focus. So if I ever dabble more into VR, especially personally, I would need something that either accommodates my prescription directly with the goggles, some sort of inserts, or use a pair of like a reading glasses that don't have a change when I look up or look down. But either way, it was really great to experience virtual reality in several different aspects. And then again, I didn't take a whole lot of stuff, pictures and stuff on the floor. There were many other people that did that. There's a floor channel, a convention center floor tour available on Flight Sim Association. I was more just interested in meeting people that I've gotten to know and checking out some of the general aviation flight sims type stuff. So, one of the big show winners for me was FlightSim.com. FlightSim.com, and we'll go visit their website real quick here. FlightSim.com. Realism reimagined in flight simulation. Now this vendor, they create force feedback hardware and other hardware for various flight simulation. Iowa Scotsman says he's still trying to get his settings right to use VR in flight sims. So yeah, that would make sense. I demoed this CLS 60 force feedback yoke um, at FSExpo. This thing, I have never felt anything more realistic when it comes to a yoke in my life for Cessna flight simulation. This thing had 180 degrees of rotation, which which so did the SciTech yet Cessna model, not the general SciTech yoke, but the SciTech Cessna yoke also had 180 degrees of rotation, but this thing had the exact same travel, fore and aft, as the actual 172. So it, like, when you're doing your run up and you're checking your flight controls forward, back, the amount of travel was the exact same as the rear world counterpart. And I was absolutely impressed by the feel and how it felt when running through a flight control check. All the way to the left, yep, okay. Looking to the right, that's down. All the way right, yep. Looking to the left, that's down. Full forward, full backward. It felt exactly like I was running through, a flight control check on my rear world Cessna 172. And for the price point of $899 for this force feedback yoke is absolutely outstanding. But here's the kicker part. This thing is what's gonna make me try and do two of these. Like, these things can be linked together mechanically, or digitally / mechanically. So you can have two of these yokes in one sim, or one yoke at Sim A and one yoke at Sim B, which could be across the world, and they can link together over internet and via network. So, it brings a whole new level of dual flight controls into your simulator. And if I had two of these, I mean, when I'm, they literally would mirror each other. So it would eliminate the need for me to come up with some sort of mechanical link between the two yokes, because they would mirror each other identically. Now, I went further and I asked, I fly with my kid, and sometimes he's all like this and this and this and this, and, on the yoke, is that going to prevent any damage? And I ran it through the ringer. Like I use this yoke as, like a 7-year-old boy, and like, if I feel like it would have broken me before I broke it, if that makes any sense. The amount of torque behind this thing was astronomical. Like, it really felt like, like I was having to put the pressure in, even more so with flaps to command the aircraft where I needed to go. So, for general aviation yokes, this thing by FlightSim.com, it really took the show for me. I am not gonna lie. This thing was absolutely amazing. I didn't spend a whole lot of time with their rudder pedals. They do have rudder pedals as well that are force feedback, and they have different configurations. Here's a first officer edition, so that would be like a right hand side yoke. So basically, it's got some different button and switch configurations there. And they offer some upgrade components. If you have, the one version, you can upgrade it to a more stiffer, firmer version, depending on what you wanted to do. But I mean, just look at this hardware. I mean, you got this yoke here, you got throttle prop mixture, you got flap control, a Hobbs meter, alt static, switches. Is it in the precise location as your typical 172? No, like the configuration is completely different. Like the things aren't laid out exactly like exactly like they would be in the actual aircraft, and that's what I pride Felicity on and myself on, is because when we take a look inside. Um, when we look in Felicity there, everything is exactly where it needs to be in relationship to scale to build that muscle memory. So that's so as far as the flightsim.com hardware, it's great by any means, but it's not true to scale. Does it have to be? No, it doesn't have to be. But for me, I pride myself in the fact that I want it to be. Um, So if I were to look into something like that, I would certainly at least go with the 4-speed back yokes. Not so much the rudder pedals by chance, but those force feedback yokes are they really stole the show for me when it comes to general aviation flight controls, primary flight controls. Um, when it comes to airliner controls, um, I will have to say that Winwig stole the show. Um, they're releasing, and they've released a whole different product line of controls for heavy metal type flying and tube liner type flying. And I'll be honest, I didn't spend a whole lot of time there because it's not the type of flying that I do. But that is certainly by no means to discredit what they have to offer. Um, these controls, and I touched them, I felt them, and they felt pretty phenomenal for what they are. But it's not something for me. But please don't let that, you know, don't let that misconstrue you or misguide you in any way, because the hardware and the build quality is just phenomenal, and the price point for what you get is even better. They revealed a lot of new items today over the weekend. They may not even be on here yet. But the price point for a lot of these items was just, it was phenomenal for what you were getting. Um, so when it comes to airliner type flying and controls, Winwig really stole the show. Um, Next up for me, when it comes to general aviation type stuff that I explored on Saturday, was Desktop Pilot. Um, I spent a lot of time at the Desktop Pilot booth, checking out all of their hardware, getting to put my hands on all of it. I spent some time flying their G1000 full flight simulator. Now, granted, this is a single seat simulator. It is not a dual seat simulator. But if you fly a G1000 172, like, everything was where it needed to be, and everything sounded like it should. Um, the build quality, the controls, the location, the controls, the responsiveness, for what it was absolutely outstanding. Would I personally pay $15,000 for it? Currently, no, because I already have what I have. But if I was a real world pilot and I was trying to buy a full flight simulator, then I think it would be worth the money. Then, of course, you have, you can add the seat, and PC and different options there. Um, but if you were to itemize everything, like all of their items that are included with the into the full flight simulator, like all of these things, pretty much you can purchase separately. If you were to itemize it, it would be pretty close to this $15,000. Um, I did take advantage of their 15% off sale, and I ordered a Hobbs meter. Now this Hobbs meter will take place of my current one, and then it will actually count up based on engine RPM. Now I did talk to one of the lead developers and tech guys, and I asked him. I was like, well, if I've got 1,700 hours on this 172, is there a way that we can reflect that on this Hobbs meter? Currently, there is not, but that is something he did ask me to email and inquire about within a week or so, because he totally understands the need to do that. He's thinking like, yeah, I've got customers, and they have this many hours or this many hours, and they want it to reflect that. So best case scenario is that they will come up with a way to, well, it's not a digital display, it's analog. So it's a mechanical display that runs on a digital signal. So best case scenario is that their software that connects the hardware to X-Plane, it'll give an option to allow you to continuously run it even though X-Plane or the engine may not be running, if that makes sense. Like some sort of way to turn it on and then just have it start counting until you get it to where you need it to be, and then turn it off, which is exactly what I did with my current Hobbs meter. But my current Hobbs meter is simply a 12 volt signal, which runs off a 12 volt power supply. So I literally just had it on this power supply and let it run until my hours got up to 1,500 or so, and then I turned it off to the power supply. And now I have to flip a switch to turn it on, in addition to the actual aircraft switches. But this Hobbs meter that I purchased, it runs off of the X-Plane data ref. It runs off the the engine actual running. So it'll come on with the engine on, and it'll stop with the engine off, which is typical behavior. But of course, since it's brand new, it's gonna come with a zero display. So between now and then, I'm hoping something comes up with how to possibly advance that. If not, what I'm going to do is I'm going to desolder the thing from the circuit board. I'm going to hook it up to my... Well, now that I'm thinking about it, if it's the same type of Hobbs meter, I'm just going to desolder it from the circuit board, solder my current one on there, and be good to go. I won't know till I have it in my hand. But I might end up doing that. Because all the circuit board is doing, I imagine it's just an Arduino, but all it's doing is, taking the data ref and converting that digital information into a 12 volt signal, and turning the Hobbs meter on, making it count. So if it's the same 12 volt style analog Hobbs meter, then I'll just swap them out and be good to go. So that's that. Okay, that's a good idea I just had. I just thought that up. And then the other thing that I purchased, not because I needed it, but because I wanted it, was this ELT switch. I do have a current ELT switch in my Cessna 172. It does make beeps and it does make tones, but it's not pretty. And it doesn't have a blinky flashy red light. This one has a flashy red light. And it also makes beeps and tones. So, that is going to take place of my current ELT inside of the 172, which I'll show you here. It's just going to be just to the top of the Homs meter. It's a little black switch currently. It's kind of dark in there. You can't really see it very well. But it was over there. Trust me, it's there. But both of those pieces of hardware require a bit of software, a software bridge, so to speak, to integrate the hardware into the X-Plane data ref. That software is called SkySync. It is developed by Desktop Pilot. So it is one more additional piece of software that I'm gonna have to run, but it's also going to eliminate one that I'll have to run for my current ELT. So still gonna have the same amount of background programs running in this current configuration. Best case scenario, and I even suggested that they do this, is for them to create an X-Plane plugin so you don't have to start nothing. It runs on the plugin directly from within X-Plane, and that is something that they are looking into in the near future for Desktop Pilot. But when it comes to GA hardware, you can't really beat this stuff. I run their switch panel and their parking brake currently, and I have nothing but good things to say about it. Here's their parking brake. Here, and then their Cessna switch panel is I'll see it there now. Key switch, breaker panel. It's interesting. I don't see it there either. Here it is, ignition panel. And then I run this ignition panel. So it's got a spring return magneto switch, your 7 light switches, tactile circuit breakers, 2 bus switches, and then some additional circuit breakers to the right. So yeah, I've got no complaints about their hardware as far as what I'll call secondary flight controls go. TPM, wet compass, switch panels, things like that. But when it comes to primary flight controls, for me, FlightSim.com stole the show. Okay, and then let's see, moving along here. Saturday night karaoke. Here I am in the karaoke room with Mustafa, and then that's Howard there. Forder Learn to Fly, seated on the right. Very, very great karaoke host. This, by all means, was probably, and I'm not going to lie, but it was probably one of the absolute worst karaoke bars, booths, places that I've ever been to. The environment itself was loud. They had different rooms for different groups, but it was also a full bar, and then there was a main open area that people were singing in as well. So you walk in, there's a bar on the left, and then there's this open area that people are singing in. Then there's this hallway. You got a room on the right with one group, and another room on the right with another group, and then a room on the left with another group. So the environment itself was loud. The microphone system completely sucked. Like, when I was singing, I could barely hear myself. When others were singing, I could barely hear them. But couple that with when somebody started singing, the entire room also started singing and joining in. so I couldn't really hear the singer, and I mean, so what's the point in karaoke at that point? Because at that point you're just group singing. May as well just do it in the hotel lobby or something at that point. That's just my personal opinion. Um, yeah, it wasn't an unfun time. I had a great time. Uh, it was pretty fun. I enjoyed it. Uh, After karaoke, by happenstance, we're walking back to the hotel. We're passing a bar called Murphy's, and guess who happened to be there? Two Tone Murphy. So we'll start here on the left. This is Smitty. He's got a full blown 737 simulator, I believe. I want to say it's a 737 simulator in his house. Just to the top right of him is Howard Forder learned to fly. Needs no introduction there. And then of course here is Two Tone Murphy. Now this picture is just by happenstance. We happen to be leaving the karaoke bar, walking back to the hotel, passing a bar called Murphy's, and of course we run into Two Tone Murphy. So of course we got to get a picture there. And then just to the right of him is Tree Top Flyer. This gentleman is the neighbor to Foxtrot, so they both stream on the Foxtrot channel. And then just below him and to the right, this gentleman is Splasher6. Splasher6. You can, Splasher underscore 6 is on Twitch as well. And then just to the right of him in the black t-shirt and the black fedora, again, I have no idea who this guy is. I hear he sings very, very well, but I really have no idea who he is whatsoever. Looks like he's got a logo there on his shirt. It might be Ohio, it might be Utah. It's really kind of hard to tell from this angle. And then just to the left of him, is Eric Lemarier, Eric Flight on Twitch.com. And then just to the left of him in the blue Hawaiian shirt in the front is Jeffrey Beckers, Jeffrey B on Twitch. So it's twitch.tv/Jeffrey B. So again, this is all sort of a happenstance type photo. It's really kind of neat. And then here is Foxtrot. He's the same one that took this photo here, but this is more of a selfie photo. He's the one in the tan shirt there. And Iowa Scotsman says Splasher lives very near to you. You met up once. That's awesome. I've met him twice, both in Houston and in Providence this year. And then, going back to Friday night, apparently me and my cubs and my fiance were all caught at the Friday night dinner on one of the YouTuber channels. Looks like this one is March W13 Flight Sim on YouTube as well. So that's pretty much it. Sunday was sort of a repeat. There was nothing new on Sunday that I didn't see on Saturday. So there was really nothing new. And I saw pretty much everything on Saturday. Sunday, again, was just kind of walking around, letting the kids fly the flight simulators, talking to people. And I spent some more time at the desktop pilot booth, bothering Alex with some more questions that I had, and he was again very receptive to them. It was a good expo. I spent more time. I probably spent more time enjoying the city and getting to hang out with people then I spent more time on the showroom floor. Um, we ended up doing a riverboat cruise on Sunday afternoons. That was really kind of neat to get some of the background information on Providence, Rhode Island. Let's see if I can find this photo here. This steeple here is part of the oldest Baptist church in the United States and the first Baptist church in America. There in Providence, Rhode Island. Okay, here it is. The First Baptist Church, founded by Roger Williams, 1638 A.D., the oldest Baptist church in America and the oldest church in this state. And then the meeting house was erected in 1773 Ante Domini. So it was really kind of cool to get that bit of history there. Was there anything... Like, there's a bunch of notable things that I took pictures with on my phone. I'm just not sure if I can... Let's see if I can do this real quick. Maybe. Let's see if I can do this real quick. Maybe. I don't know if I can bring these up here. I'll try and stream these. I'll try and mirror these from my phone. If I can't. Okay. If I can't. Okay. Give me just a minute. Let me see if I can figure this out here. Okay. Alright. Alright, we got it from my phone now. These are some pictures that I got from downtown Providence, Rhode Island, some various structures. But here we are on the riverboat cruise, on the actual boat, making our way down along the Woonasquatucket River. Here is our lovely tour guide. Some more architecture that probably has some significance that eludes me currently. Okay. This bridge here used to be the widest bridge in Providence. It has since then been, more sectioned off. But apparently this bridge used to be over a quarter or a mile and a quarter wide. Not so much across the river, but wide for transportation. Also used to be part of one of the railways there in Providence. And it has a name. I forget the name of the bridge. I honestly do. There's a significance of these two towers. I forget what that is also. This is a memorial. Some sort of freedom memorial. And our tour guide was on point. Don't get me wrong. He did a great job explaining all of this stuff. I did not do a great job remembering all of this stuff. But this is some sort of memorial. War memorial, I think. And we're cruising along here. These are fire baskets. They have like a fire night celebration 6 times a year. So this entire river is lit up with fires. I imagine it is really quite a spectacle to see. And I know there's a significance of the festival. I just, again, I don't recall the specifics of what the significance actually is. But I do know that those fire rings actually float up and down with high and low tide. Now you can kind of see here, we'll zoom in. You can kind of see the colored bricks, well, the lighter color. And then below that, sort of the darker color, then you can kind of see the shadow of the water there. Well, there's a very distinct line, so that line there is actually the high tide. So that river actually goes up and down, that much, at least twice a day throughout the course of the day. I thought that was really kind of cool. This is a confluence where kind of three tributaries of the river kind of join together. They gave a point for that name. I forget what it is. There's Jeffrey Beckers and his wife Emma. Okay, so this is the Exchange Street Bridge. The Water Place Bridge. All of these bridges have names to them. There's me and Elizabeth. Wait. Yeah, I have no idea who that guy in that fedora is. There's some guy in Elizabeth, I can tell you that much. Similar architecture. Biltmore, not to be confused with the Biltmore Estate. I've yet to look up what this Biltmore actually is. I don't know if it's the same relation or not with the Biltmore Estate, but it was still kind of cool to see. This rotunda, this is the Capitol building, Providence Capitol. This rotunda is the fourth largest self-supporting concrete rotunda in the world. I did remember that. And there's a golden man on the top of that. It's sort of the... I forget what the golden man actually is. But I did remember that this rotunda is the fourth largest self-sustaining concrete rotunda in the world. I thought that was pretty cool. But it is a state capital. Some more architecture that I don't remember all the details about. So this was pretty neat. So I guess in 1815, there was a hurricane, and this line here defined where the water level got to from that hurricane. So we're way down here. But in 1815, a hurricane, brought it up to flood levels, and then again in 1954, and then in 1938, that was the highest flood level. And then my understanding is that between 38 and 54, those two floods, over 8,000 people unfortunately perished, which is very, very terrible. And it really kind of left the city in ruins. This is one of the oldest buildings now being used by the Rhode Island School of Design or Art, one of those schools. But the key thing I remember is there's no air conditioning inside of this building, none whatsoever. So that'd be kind of difficult to attend class in there all day and not have any air. This gray rotunda actually used to be the highest point in Providence, and it was a sort of a lookout for cargo ships, things like that. Because the people had to pay these taxes and water taxes, but tariffs and things, imported goods. So this silver dome, which is now being towered by some of the other surrounding buildings, actually used to be one of the highest points in Providence and one of the lookout points along the river there. That much I do remember. Here's some random guy feeding some geese. Okay. This bridge that went across the river. This bridge actually used to rotate. So you can see how it's going across the river now. It actually used to rotate 90 degrees to allow ships to pass through. And then this deteriorating wooden pier structure here. This pier was erected to protect the bridge from vessels that might have gotten off course. So when the bridge was rotated 90 degrees to let vessels pass through, the pier was wider than the bridge. So if a ship got off course, they would run into the pier before the bridge, and it was called a sacrificial pier. So I thought that was really cool, and that's probably why I just remembered all that to be able to recite it to you. But some things happened, and they redid the bridge, and they sealed it shut, so it no longer moves anymore. It's just there as a fixed bridge across the river there. This is the Fox Point Hurricane Barrier. This is a pump house, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But after those big floods and hurricanes and the water came in, okay, the Army Corps of Engineers needed to try to figure out a way to prevent future damage. So what they came up with is this dam here, and there's these 3 doors that allow the water to pass through. But during a hurricane, they will close these doors, and that'll prevent the ocean water from coming back up and filling up the river there, flooding the city. And that's where this pump house comes into play, because generally the river feeds the ocean, but if the hurricane's coming from the ocean, it fills the river up. So the river's not going to flow backward, it's just going to flow upward. So with these doors closed, this river has nowhere to go. So they created this pump house. It's got these 5 massive pumps here. So it pumps water from the river back into the reservoir there. And these pumps flow like something crazy, 600,000 gallons per minute. They're the 5 largest pumps in the United States, was my understanding. This is going under that bridge. This is a tugboat. The Reliance tugboat. There's a family that runs all of these tugboats. I forget the name of the family, but they have tugboats all across the eastern seaboard. They started in like the 1800s and are still going today. So this is on our way back, and again, here's the 3 doors. They close like towards us. That first picture I showed you was the opposite side, but this is the side that they close on. So they're gonna rotate down towards us, and they operate these at least once a month. The Army Corps comes out and moves these up and down. It takes about 30 minutes to lower these doors down into position, but about 2.5 hours to raise these doors back up. And they do this to keep the things from freezing and seizing up. So that I just think that the design and technology behind that is really something else. This is a coal burning power. Well, used to be a coal burning, now it's a power plant. I forget the name of it, but it's one of the most photographed power plants in the United States. And it is for sale. If you happen to be in the market for a power plant, it is available for purchase right now. More pictures of the sacrificial pier on our way back. Some geese. And that was pretty much it from the tour. And here's a microwave that was on the hotel floor above us because our microwave was not working. And they said, well, go use the one on the other floor. I said, okay. So I went up there, and the thing's in French. Luckily, there was a pizza button. That's really all that I needed was the pizza button. But, yeah, imagine my surprise when I came across this French microwave and trying to reheat pizza for the kids. More photos. Took this one for my daughter for her to try and figure out what was missing. At first, she went unnoticed, and I'm surprised that this is still in practice. But I don't know how long this Omni Hotel has been here. But not so much the lobby up to 5. Those first couple floors are private residences. But you'll notice that the number 13 is missing. It's an old superstition about 13 being unlucky. But what I've yet to figure out, and this is one of the things I don't know, and I really don't know how I can figure this out, but I really want to figure this out. It goes from floor 10, 11, 12, 14, 15. Does that mean that there's a 13th floor that nobody uses, or is floor 14 physically above floor 12? Like, is there a physical 13th floor in between 12 and 14 that just, it's an empty floor, nobody uses it, nobody knows about it, nobody talks about it? Or is there floor 12 and directly above that floor 14, and they just call it 14, even though if you were to count it, it might be the 13th floor, even though it's 14. That's one of the things I don't know. I've always kind of wanted to figure that out. I've yet to be able to figure that out, because when I'm on like floor 12, I have a very difficult time trying to look directly below me out the window to count the stories. I've yet to be able to do that. And then, of course, when I'm on the ground, I don't know exactly which room would be mine by looking up. Although, now that I think about it, maybe I'll have to mark the window somehow with some masking tape and look at it from the ground to see exactly, But in order to do that, I would have to be on a floor 14. Because then I would know, if I count 13 rows up and I see my marker, is it floor 13 or floor 14? And then on my way back, this is just some random stuff. I stopped and visited my aunt, who works at the IBM headquarters in Town, in New York somewhere. And this is just some old IBM equipment there that I took some pictures of. Alphabetical duplicating punch. Recorded alphabetic information on tabulating cards for later printing, together with numerical data on an alphabetical accounting machine. So that's what that thing is right there. And then this thing is a printing punch. The IBM 032 of 1933 was the first punch card machine to punch digits or alphabetic combinations and print the corresponding ledgers across the top margin of the card. So yeah, that was pretty much about it as far as Flight Sim Expo went for me. I met a lot of wonderful people there. Sky Media, Sparker NVR, saw Splasher 6 again. I can't list everyone. I met so many people there. And then Bree met a lot of people too that I met at Flight Sim Expo 2023 in Houston, Texas. So yeah, what time is it? It's almost 11 o'clock. So unfortunately, I'm not really gonna have time to do any flying today. It is getting late, but I do want to sort of discuss real quick what the next plan is gonna be. One of my biggest problems when it comes to deciding what or where or things like that is just where to go, what to do. How how can I take advantage of this time to fly, other than just tooling around near home. So what I did is I asked Google, hey, what is the farthest west commercial airport in the continental United States? And Google told me that airport is actually Seattle. Kilo Sierra Echo Alpha. And then I asked Google, okay, well, what is the farthest airport east, commercial airport in the eastern half of the United States? And Google told me, well, that is in Maine. It is Kilo Bravo Golf Romeo, Bangor International in Bangor, Maine. So, if you haven't yet figured it out, the next thing that we'll be doing is doing a continental flight. That's what I want to do. When there are times when there's no events going on and no sanctioned things, and during those times when I'm having a hard time figuring out how to keep you all entertained, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make this flight from the farthest west commercial airport in the United States to the farthest east commercial airport in the United States. That's the plan. It is not going to be a straight line. It can't be a straight line. We're going to keep this all in the United States. So there's going to be some ups and then some downs and then some arounds. We have the Great Lakes to contend with. There's going to be a lot of planning involved to do this flight in our 172. We need to plan airports that have fuel stops. Obviously, we have to take weather into consideration. But that's going to be what we're going to do. And just to kind of do it quick, and I'm not brief, checking out any of these right now, but if I just want to kind of rubber band. We'll kind of rubber band some airports here and kind of get an approximate mileage. As to what we're going to be looking at here. Okay. So just based on those two to kind of keep us in the continental U.S., we're looking about 2,373 nautical miles. And that's right now it's saying about 20 hours of flight time. That's gonna change. Winds change, weather changes, things like that. But that's going to be our plan. We're going to do a coast-to-coast tour from west to east in our 172. When we're not doing any sort of sanctioned event, like anything with any of the flying clubs or the pilot club or anything on Pilot Edge or anything like that. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. I hope you can join me for some or all or part of the legs, and it's definitely got to be broken down, and we'll plan. We'll plan a leg and we'll fly a leg. For each stream that we're able to do that. Other than that, as far as tonight goes, I want to give a quick thank you to some new channel follows. Cool Joe 007 came in with a new channel follow. I met him at FSExpo. And then Jitsuka with a new channel follow. And then Toto2495 with new channel follows, all since we've been online. And then our last channel follow was Mariner98. I think that we were offline for that as well. So 4 new channel follows while we were not streaming. So I do want to thank those folks for that, and I look forward to flying with them. So, I think that is it for me. I wanted to get some flying in, but it's already 11 o'clock. I'm not gonna have time, unfortunately. But let's see. The Virtual USA Flying Club Air Show isn't until next weekend, July 12th, starting at 1. So, between now and then, I'm hoping to at least be able to get a couple legs in of this west to east continental flight. So, until then, I do hope you all take care and stay safe. Take care of each other. I think that is very, very important. I don't know who we can go and raid or who's doing any sort of flying here. Let me see. Let me take a look here. Alright. Looks like Jeffrey B is streaming. So, we're going to go and raid the Jeffrey B Twitch channel. And I will see you all for our next unscheduled flight. Thank you all so much for coming in and chit-chatting with me and hanging out as we debriefed the FSExpo. Again, I'm sorry I didn't take more pictures while I was out on the floor, but there were so many other people that did so much better job at that than I ever could have. The floor tour is available on the Expo YouTube channel. And then there are so many YouTubers that did the very same thing as well. So I encourage you to just hop on the YouTube, check, search for FSExpo 2025, and anything that you might possibly want to see is already on there. So that is it for me. I do want to thank you all again for coming in, hanging out for a bit, and I will see you all for our next unscheduled flight. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening, everyone. Take care, stay safe, and we will see you next time.
Just like a ride.